Hi and welcome. Our childhood affects our romantic relationship choices in several ways. In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 ways this happens. I'm also going to pose several questions towards the end to ask yourself, should you want to change how you approach your romantic relationships if you find that your upbringing has become more problematic and you really want to make some change in your life. And I often say, we live what we learn until we decide not to and make necessary changes. And remember to give me a thumbs up or leave a comment below because I would love to hear from you. Welcome, I'm Dr. D. I'm a clinical psychologist in private practice. I work with individuals and couples who want to have more fulfilling relationships in their life, whether that be with their partner, their spouse, a family member, a friend, a coworker, or their child. And I also help people manage life's ups and downs to create more joy and optimism and experience personal growth. In essence, move through life with greater purpose and direction. And finally, I work with people going through a divorce to help them manage co-parenting issues and communicate better and in healthier ways with their soon-to-be ex. So, let's get started. Our first family, or family of origin as referred to in therapy, directly influences us in both positive and negative ways in how we view the world, establish our values and lifestyle, and the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and choices we make throughout our lifespan. It's during our childhood that we learn ways to exist in the world and to relate to others. Our childhood also impacts on how we develop and function in romantic relationships and how we give and receive love. Our childhood has a significant and at times lasting effect on the way we interact with our partners. Thus, the early years are critical in so many ways. So the first step toward understanding the role of childhood in your romantic relationships is to examine the role that your parents or caretakers played in shaping you. This relationship, of course, is our first exposure on how to communicate and interact in a romantic relationship. As a child, remember, you are a sponge, constantly watching and absorbing all the interactions between your parents or your caretakers. So, of course, it would reason that you would accept the ways things are because of what you are seeing, even if it's not that great or unhealthy, because you don't know what you don't know. For example, research shows that by and large, when parents are warm and nurturing, their children are more likely to have high self-esteem and healthy romantic relationships later in life. They will feel more secure in their ability to navigate the ups and downs in life and in relationships. And because they may feel more secure in themselves, they often will choose people who are also secure as well. On the contrary, when parents are not affectionate or rarely show affection towards their partner or you, they might be avoidant or anxious in relationships, you may find yourself replicating the same behavior as an adult. Or if your parents or caretakers express anger towards one another, and the relationship was often conflictual. Depending on how they manage this will also reflect how you communicate and manage conflict in your relationships. Despite there being many ways that parents and caretakers influence a child's upbringing, the result is the same. Your upbringing, those early years, are significant in how you learn to relate to yourself and others, communicate, manage the ups and downs of life, and interact in a romantic relationship. Yet, despite the impact from your upbringing, change is always possible. Here are 5 ways your childhood affects your romantic relationships as an adult. Number 1, your values and lifestyle. Your childhood is a vital part of who you are as an adult. It shapes your values and lifestyle and the way you relate to others. Values are the beliefs that motivate you to act in one way or another. They serve as a guide and a foundation for your behavior. Values are what we regard as important and has worth or usefulness to us. It's a person's principles or standards of behaviors. Often people are predisposed to adopt the values they were raised with and come to believe those values are right. Your values influence your decisions and provide the building blocks for your character and how you want to live. You should ask yourself, what are some of the values you were raised with? Do you like those values? Have they shaped the ways in which you continue in your adult life? Understanding your values are important, especially when you're dating and choosing a person to be in a relationship with. The values that you grew up with can and often does have a huge impact on how you interact with your partner in a relationship and what you are seeking for in a partner. So defining your core values provides a compass in how you can lead your life and also affects your actions and decisions, allowing you to further your life goals. Values can be such things as showing courage through difficult times, the importance of integrity, respect, forgiveness, being authentic, demonstrating patience, honesty, and responsibility, the importance of community, showing gratitude as well as how you view money, religion, or spirituality, the importance of education, your work ethic, and love. All of these values influence us in different ways. They lead us to and away from people. We are seeking people with the same values and lifestyles as we do. And when they don't align, we often feel like something is off. Your lifestyle choices are how you experience these things growing up, is what is modeled in the way of a personal and conscious decision to live life in certain ways. Some ways might be if you raised with a healthy lifestyle around exercise and wellness and that type of thing, the influence of sleep, or whether your parents were socially active, they drank alcohol or smoked, had addictions, were active in the community or church, gave back, or how they spent their time away from work, and hobbies and approach to life. Depending on the values you were raised with and the lifestyle your parents provided will have a significant impact on the way in which you want to live your life. Number 2, how you manage your emotions and communicate. How you manage your emotions and communicate is modeled by your parents. And as you watch them manage their emotions, you internalize these same behaviors, because why wouldn't you? You don't know anything else at this time in your life. For example, you might observe that feelings should be ignored, or that it's okay to express your feelings in ways that make someone feel uncomfortable. Or you may have been taught that it was wrong or inappropriate to feel certain ways and that you should be ashamed of those feelings. Some parents may be yell and scream at one another, and for the child, this becomes very distressing and unsettling. Maybe your parents and siblings talk over one another. Maybe you can't get a word at all. Or maybe your parents were different individually. One talked all the time and the other fell silent. Remember, your parents came from somewhere too. They had their own family of origin, the first family. And some people often say that, well, my parents didn't argue, though this doesn't necessarily mean this was good. I mean, silence can often indicate a feelings of hopelessness, giving up and not caring, or acquiescing, or possibly not having a reason to fight and argue. It just depends. Yet, sometimes kids grow up with parents who set a really good example when it comes to relationships. The way parents model good communication or interacting with another influences how we feel and how we should interact in our relationship. So maybe you watched your parents communicate in ways that were healthy. There was a give and take. Maybe they fought, but they fought fair. You watched them speak to one another in kind ways and with compassion. Maybe there wasn't a lot of arguing, because some people just get along better than others. But I have found that many, I would say most people, have not really learned healthy ways to communicate in relationships, so they come to therapy to learn how to do this better. And really, there's really no positive outcome to blame parents, but to understand where they came from and what was modeled for them. And as you become an adult and have your relationships of your own, you might find yourself in these same types of situations and feel somewhat comfortable, even though you know this isn't healthy. That's when you know you have to make some changes. Because we grow and change through self-examination, introspection, and a willingness to change and be open to change. Another way, your views on marriage. Your views on marriage can play a significant role in your current and future relationships, and here are a few ways that gets played out. If you grew up in a loving household with parents who stay together and have healthy communication methods, you're more likely to have a positive view on relationships, and this might also be reflective on your view of marriage. Your parents demonstrated positive interactions, and overall you got the feeling or sense that relationships and marriage were positive things to have in life. However, if your parents argue a lot and yet stay together, you might feel this is how couples interacted even though they're not happy. Maybe your parents are fearful of divorcing for their own reasons, and they don't want to lose their partner even though they were unhappy. This can set up a negative codependency, and then your view on marriage might be to stay together even if you were miserable, unhappy, or argue a lot, and go by the motto, we need to stay together at all costs. As an adult in a relationship, you may carry this viewpoint as well and believe you must stay in your relationship because that's what was modeled for you, and that's what couples do. Or you can even have the opposite effect. You might be a bit resistant or hesitant even to pursue interest in marriage. Because sometimes without realizing it, when we're in those types of situations, you can have a fear of commitment or marriage because of what you observed. For you, marriage takes on a negative tone, and so you shy away from it and have a lot of fear around it. If you're a child of divorce, like me, you might think that things will not work out. If you're unhappy, then you could just get divorced. And then maybe it was hard to go between two homes and that had a negative impact. But maybe your parents were happier in the end. Regardless, this experience has many different outcomes. All these different situations ultimately affect each person in different ways. Another way, your relationship with money. Money is often a very emotional topic and has significant impact on your relationships. For example, how much money you grew up with, what the values and attitudes that your parents had around money. You may be carrying some negative or positive outlooks into your relationship. For example, did you have money growing up? Could your parents pay the bills? Did you have food insecurity? Did they live paycheck to paycheck? Did they argue about money? Did you get everything you wanted or needed? So here are a few different situations and how money gets played out. Sometimes if you grew up in a low-income household, you might be cautious about how you spend your money. You may overspend on unimportant items just to make you feel good or better and feel like you've got some kind of control over the money. Or maybe you're always looking for the best deal or trying to save money at all costs, regardless of how much money you make. If you didn't have a lot of money growing up, and maybe now you do, you might still carry those cautious ways with you. Another example, if your parents saved a lot of money but didn't spend any money on you or the family with travel or fun experiences, then you may become a person who saves a lot because this is what you learned. Or you could do the opposite. You might make a lot of money and want to live and do things. Or if your parents live with a lot of debt, you may feel this is okay and that having a lot of debt is okay even if you don't have the money at the time to buy something or to do something new with your life. Another example, maybe you're always taken care of in varying ways and never went without or had everything given to you. Or finally, if your parents worked all the time and just saved and saved and saved all this money, you may view work and money in the same way. You are apprehensive or cautious about spending any money and you want to save all of it. As a reminder, there are so many different scenarios around money. Money is a complicated and emotional subject and does value in relationships, both good and bad. The most important aspects are to understand your relationship with money, how it influences your decisions, and if you have a different view than your partner, how significant is that difference? And finally, your attachment style. Attachment theory suggests that when we create an internal working model of our parents, that we later internalize this as our own sense of self. Your attachment style affects how you experience yourself, how you exist and communicate and interact in relationships. Your childhood experiences with your parents or caretakers provide a model for adult relationships. And your attachment style is the way that you attach to others and romantically as well as other close relationships. This style is formed in childhood and can have a profound effect on how you approach relationships throughout your life. There are 4 basic types: secure, anxious preoccupied, dismissive avoidant, and fearful avoidant. Secure is when you feel comfortable with your partner, but you also feel secure enough to separate from them when necessary. If your parents showed love and responded to your needs and validated your feelings, you're more likely to develop a secure attachment style. And then you seek out people and desire that same attachment style as an adult. The other 3 types create an insecure attachment. The anxious preoccupied is what happens when people are dependent on their partner and fear losing them. This can create codependency. The dismissive avoidant attachment is when people avoid closeness with others because they fear rejection or intimacy. And the fearful avoidant attachment is a combination of anxious preoccupied and dismissive avoidant, meaning that you want closeness with your partner, but you also fear being rejected or abandoned by them. If you developed an insecure attachment with your parents or caretakers, this may lead to low self-esteem, anxiety in relationships or feeling overly needy, and doubt that you can trust others and yourself. And sometimes you might be more apt to seek out those relationships that mimic the same type of attachment, not because it feels good, but because it is familiar to us. Questions to ask yourself regarding your romantic relationships. If you're looking to improve your relationships, it's important to understand how your childhood has affected them. And these are some questions you want to ask yourself. What do you want to take from your upbringing? One of the first things is to consider is what you want to take from your childhood and incorporate into romantic relationships, and what do you want to discard? There may be things you want to keep and value, and that's good. And then there are those things you want to discard or adjust. Just think about how you learn to communicate, your relationship with money, your view on marriage, and your values and lifestyle choices to help you make changes if you need to. Another thing, what patterns are you repeating but you want to change? Think about what patterns you're repeating in themselves in your current relationship and which ones you'd like to change. Look at your communication patterns. Do you like how you communicate? Are you struggling? Do you have circular conversations? What is your communication style? What do you see in yourself that mimics your upbringing? Another question, what model do you want to use for your relationships? If you have a good role model in your life, that can serve as a guide on how to conduct yourself in relationships. That's great. But if you don't have a good role model, it's important to understand what kind of model you'd like to use instead. And I often pose questions like, ask yourself, what would a good model of happiness look like for you? When you decide on what you want to keep and leave behind as well as the patterns you don't want to repeat, how does that create your own model of happiness that you can maintain and sustain in a romantic relationship? Remember, everyone brings his or her own unique sense of a set of experiences into a relationship, and those experiences influences how we relate to each other. Here are some ways you can break the cycle. There are several things you can do to break the cycle if you find that you really need to make some changes in your life. Because you can always change through awareness of your past, how it influences your present, a commitment to change, and holding yourself accountable to making small changes in your life so you can create a healthier relationship. Take a closer look at your childhood and possibly talking to your parents or siblings to gain perspective, even if your memories are different from what they share, which is very common. Maybe start journaling, which increases your self-awareness and sheds light on your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in relationships. Do a relationship inventory to help you connect the dots. And then when you observe your parents or caretakers as an adult, pay attention to what is coming up for you and you ask yourself if these are the same things that you're showing up in your relationships. A relationship inventory is key. And read. There are copious articles and blogs on the internet filled with suggestions and advice and ways in which you can overcome your upbringing legacy and make necessary changes to create a healthier lifestyle. And that's it. Remember to give me a thumbs up or leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out on my Instagram at @DrKDavin or email me at hello@KristinDavin.com. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks.